Hammer.
Oh, hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Swear to God, that was the name of it.
I remember those. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it at all, and it was smart because, who knows if I was even going to continue with it. So it was like $100, $150 for the Slammer by Hammer. They comes with like a little amp, basically. That's where I started playing around, and I'm glad I did too, because it's good to start with gear that really isn't the best, because you're dealing with your bridge is higher, so it's harder to hit the notes. You have to really force it in there, really get those calluses going, and it's more of a struggle, really, which was beneficial.
Yeah, because it made you play tighter. It made you be more precise. Made you be more precise when you were playing. Yeah, I've noticed that. Like when I started playing, your guitar was better than mine. I had picked up like a $20 first act acoustic guitar that I tried to learn on, and the action was like that high, man. But what I noticed is that by the time I got an actual playable guitar, I had been so used to having to like nail a bar chord and to squeeze the life out of it to get it to ring out, that it made it easier. Yeah, it made it a lot easier.
Like moving around, trying to figure out where your thumb goes.
Yeah.
Trying to move it around.
If you have a guitar early on, that's a little more difficult to play. If you can like find the drive to stay with it, in some ways it almost kind of is beneficial, maybe for a little while anyways, in the way that it makes you end up being more precise on how you play.
Definitely, and it's a good point that you brought up too. So the Slammer by Hammer was technically my first guitar, but my mom actually had an old school Gibson G Series, 1960 something, 1970s. She just had it. She just had it from when she was a kid. She took lessons, but she never really followed through with it.
Wow!
So she just had it, and it's like this Gibson G Series. This particular one was smaller.
Mm-hmm.
But it was beautiful tone. And so
Gibson.
I actually learned a lot starting with acoustic, which I 100% recommend to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely start with the acoustic, because, once you go from acoustic to electric, it's just a dream,
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like playing on sandpaper to going and playing on like silk.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, in the amount of, I guess I should say the lack of pressure needed is a relief, because even for me now playing acoustic, like my hand tends to cramp up. I mean, I'm getting old, but after 15, 20 minutes of playing it, my hand starts to cramp up on me.
Yeah, you got to do these stretches, basically.
But when I play my Les Paul, I could play that thing for 3 hours straight.
Oh wow!
Yeah. It's just that much of a difference for me. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm mind fucking myself or something. I don't know.
No, those acoustic strings, they're heavy. It's a different. What am I trying to say? They're made of something different.
Yes.
I can't think of what it is off the top of my head.
It's bronze.
Bronze. Yeah, exactly. They go bad quick.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're dealing with another thing there where, if you get the cheap strings, you get colors on your hands, and you start to actually see it, coming off, and it's the heaviness, I think, the thickness, and with an acoustic, it keeps you honest.
Oh yeah,
it keeps you honest. Like you can bullshit all you want with some bends. You could do some power chords and play some punk on an electric, but if you're not hitting those strings right, and you start getting some fuzz or some buzz,
mm-hmm.
You're gonna hear it right away. It really does. It keeps you honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention, like, every young kid is gonna throw some distortion on, and distortion hides. It hides a lot.
Yeah,
it hides a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's what we all do. Yeah, to this day. Yeah, it's rock and roll, man. It's metal.
Mm-hmm.
So it hides a lot of that. But yeah, I agree. If you're gonna start out, I like to kid myself and think that maybe there are some teenagers listening that want to start playing, but there's another good tip. If you're going to start out, get an acoustic guitar to start out. It will teach you better habits than if you just jump into an electric guitar with a line 6 and just crank on the insane setting.
Exactly. That's funny you said that. Yeah. Yeah, with the floorboard and just fucking start wah-wahing that shit.
Now, when you said you took lessons for about 6 months, did Did that ever grow to anything? Like, did you end up meeting other kids, maybe starting a band and stuff like that?
No, no,
No.
I actually had severe anxiety as a kid, just from personal things growing up, parents, issues, all kinds of things. So I had severe social anxiety to the point where I actually had to quit lessons because I couldn't be in this little room and I couldn't focus. I couldn't keep up. And I just want to have a panic attack and run away. And I'd always end up like all sweaty, and I never really got a lot out of it. It was just such a, I wanted it and I wanted to learn to keep up, but at the same time, it was like traumatic. So I quit. I quit lessons and I taught myself,
Yeah.
basically, which it's the hard road.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
How would you have gone about that
yeah.
back then? Like, what kind of practicing were you doing and finding, and like where were you going to for it? Like, I'm assuming a lot of it probably would have been online or in books. But how
Mm,
did you find yourself coming up with your own kind of practice routine?
yeah, that's a good question. So I did learn some things in the lessons for about 6 months. I learned like warm up scales. I learned how to do a power chord, what a power chord is. Um, Learned like the C chord, and once I stopped with the lessons, I kept doing those exercises, and I had like a 101 book basically with scales, but I never really got into that. I never liked the workbook thing. um, when we get deeper, I'll tell you about music theory and doing all that, because that's a whole different world. But at first, and even still to this day, I don't like reading music. I like to just go, just
I'm the same way.
stream
Yeah.
of consciousness. um, but I did learn to practice consistently. Maybe not every single day, but every other day.
Hmm.
Every 3 days, every 2 days. Whenever I could, whenever I had a spare moment. My parents are divorced. We were bounced around, and it became my outlet, which looking back was a miracle because I didn't really have much. I played baseball as a, little league, Babe Ruth kind of thing. And, I was always really good academically because I needed like a way to focus. Like I needed to focus on anything else besides what was going on in my personal life.
Hmm.
So yeah, guitar basically, it's just about repetition, practice, and then once you learn how to do like a Nirvana song or a Green Day song or just something simple, then you expand, so then I'd start listening to other music, and trying to figure out with my ear, trying to figure out, okay, where's the note? So it'd be dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun dun dun. There it is, dun 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 dun. So I'd have that one, and it was slow and it was painful sometimes, but I just try to match the notes, and then I'd just start. That's really where I started. Yeah.
Even though you had stated earlier, you said it's the harder road, but if you really look back on it, isn't making yourself get the muscle memory or at least the know-how to, go up and down the neck looking for the root note of whatever it is you're trying to find? I feel like you can take lessons and kind of build that faster, but in my opinion, if you do take the harder road, I feel like you internalize it more, because you're making yourself
Hmm.
do this because it's something that you want and something that you love and something that you're chasing, as opposed to somebody going, what, you didn't learn this yet? Or, you got to learn this by next week, or,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I've taken lessons too. And I've quit. I've taken lessons twice and I've quit after a few lessons each time because I don't feel like I progress at the rate that they want me to.
Mm.
And I felt like I'd do better on my own. Oh, you better watch out. I saw that.
Let's list that
Hey,
one.
that was going to be a podcast moment.
Yeah, I almost lit that one on
Yeah.
Saturday night.
But
Uh,
but I feel like the people who can eventually end up teaching themselves and taking that harder road end up being that much better. I'm not saying better than everybody, just that much better than they could have been because they did it, but they internalized it while they did it in a way that paying somebody else to, reach it to you all day or every week just doesn't do.
true. That's true. And it was painful. And I quit 4 times.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like I'd go, after lessons, I'd quit for a little while. Maybe a few months, I think it was, and then I'd get back on it, and then I'd go for 6 months, and then I'd be off. Then I come back to it because it's always there. It's always in the corner. It's like reaching out, like play with me or kind of thing. It's like
it's a
fiddle,
constant
just see what
friend.
happens.
It's a friend that's always
Yeah,
there, and it's
almost like video games.
yeah, dude, you're speaking we're the same person over here.
Oh God, brother,
Yeah,
brother.
I had to wipe out some Rocket League before I came on here.
Ah, savage,
But
savage, savage, savage.
so, all right, so after the music lessons, and I mean,
Yeah.
you're growing up at this point, so where does your music take you at this point? Like, what are you doing? I mean, are you recording? Like, tell me about what you're doing.
Yeah. So okay. So there was that beginning stage, that phase, where I thought I was doing well, but looking back, it was atrocious. But you have to go through that. There are these 30-day, guaranteed to have you play some guitar in 30
Mm,
days. That's bullshit.
hmm.
Bullshit. It takes a solid year just to get your calluses and just to even maneuver the thing. I
Mm.
think for me personally it was, and then it was actually another year after that, really, of just kind of trial and error. But okay, so I started at 15, 15 and a half. When I was about 16 and a half towards 17,
Mm.
I started in my first garage band, literally in a garage
Sweet.
outside my house. We got the police called on us while we were playing TNT by AC/DC.
Nice.
And yeah, and I started just hanging with these dudes who were creative and kind of shelled like I was and just needed that outlet. We all just kind of bonded that way. Um, and really, that's where I started to learn quicker and at a much faster pace because it was challenging and you're learning things that you'd never even think of looking up. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, and you have other musicians around to kind of bounce back and forth like
Oh,
ideas, and maybe somebody's like, yeah, I learned this or I saw this, can try this, and it's almost like you guys are creating uh, lessons without creating lessons. You're teaching each other,
right. Exactly.
learning on
And
the fly.
learning on the fly. Yeah. And it was tough because again, we're kind of challenging each other. And I was never the best. I was more the rhythm guitar player in this, in this garage band, but we were on time. We had a drummer, and that's another big thing too. When you start playing with other instruments and you
Mm-hmm.
learn that you have to be on time and you gotta hold your own, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to spotlight yourself. You want to make sure
It's where you find
everything's
out whether you actually have the rhythm that you think you have.
oh the rhythm. Yeah, and I learned that. It's funny you say that. I learned very very quickly that I have tremendous timing. My
Nice.
my beats are very on. At the time, it was only 4/4. Was all
Yeah.
it was all I knew. But I was always on time. I could always catch it because music was so influential in my life. Headphones constantly, whether it was my cassette player or my Sony Walkman, the Discman.
Oh man,
Um,
they
just
skip
like
so much.
oh god, yeah, yeah, yeah. Put that anti skip on there, and
Oh boy.
it's not.
You just brought me back for a second. I remember having one of those and just trying to literally do what it said and walk, man, and you just
Yeah,
couldn't get it to go.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
good old days. So yeah, so you found out you haven't. Yeah, I feel like you're one of the lucky ones, man. Like I found out I have terrible fucking timing. I try to play along, but I don't play with anybody. I play with myself at home. I play by myself at home. Let me back that up. But I go on YouTube and I'll load up drum tracks, or I have a drum machine, or I'll pop that in. And what I learned is that when I was teaching myself, I thought I had good timing. In my head, I had good timing until I played along with something and I found out that I really didn't.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you could play with music and you could play with the rhythm in your own brain, but until you're sharing that music together, especially with the drummer,
Hmm.
yeah, you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to know it because in your head it'll always sound right because in your head the beat's going